Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Stanley number FBB167. This is a 4.5 inch 26D or satin chrome half mortise hinge. It's a half mortise hinge. Let's talk about what that means. Now there are different types of hinges: full surface, full mortise, half surface, half mortise, swing clear, raised barrel, wide throw, variants of all of those that go together. This happens to be one type of variant of hinge. It's a half mortise hinge. So in the world of hinges, let's narrow that down, all of those types down to just 3. But let's start with the typical full mortise hinge. That means both leaves are going to be mortised to the edge of the door and to the jamb. They're just mortised. You can do, from a full mortise, you can do a half surface and a half mortise. The surface and the mortise term in the description applies to the door. So on a full mortise hinge, you have 2 leaves, the door leaf and the frame leaf. They can be installed either way. With a half surface or a half mortise, the surface or the mortise, that leaf specifically refers to the door. So in a half surface hinge, we know the leaf that goes to the door is the surface mounted leaf. And conversely, if we have a half mortise hinge, we know the leaf that goes to the door is mortised to the edge. By extension of that description, the other leaf is the opposite. So you'll have in a half surface, half mortise, you'll have 1 leaf surface, 1 leaf mortised. 1 leaf surface, 1 leaf mortised. So in a half surface, you've got one of each leaf, mortise and surface. In a half mortise, you've got one of each leaf, surface and mortise. The term applies to what the leaf is doing on the door. The frame is the opposite. So if we have a half mortise hinge, that means the leaf that goes to the door will be mortised, but then on the frame it's surface mounted. Now, why would you use such a hinge? Well, half mortise are admittedly a bit less common hinges, certainly less common than half surface. And they are less common to sell. Why are they less common to sell? Well, half surface or half mortise hinges are generally never installed or specified for a new installation. Generally, half surface and half mortise hinges are used when a full mortise hinge has failed. Okay, so in the typical environment where you see a half surface is that the leaf, the top leaf on the door, that reinforcement in the door has failed. The frame is still good. The reinforcement works. It's all intact. But you go with a half surface hinge because then you can get this special hinge, lay that leaf to the face of the door, through bolt it, preserving the original operation of the door without going to great lengths to repair the problem. I think half surface are more common than half mortise because the frame is always a thicker steel, thereby permitting a better penetration on the weld. So I think that the frame has a better capability of its weld holding together between the 2 parts, but also the frame isn't moving. The frame isn't getting the direct abuse. The door is absorbing that, and 70% of the weight of the door is hung by that top hinge, which is where you're going to see that top hinge, and on the thinner gauge door, taking all the use and abuse, is going to be the area that would fail first. But a half mortise hinge you could certainly use as well. You might want to stick a regular door into another application of this. You might want to stick a regular door into an otherwise atypical application. You could have a channel iron frame and you're going to put doors into there. Okay, you're going to weld some stops onto the header and you're going to hang some doors in a channel iron frame. A half mortise hinge would be really great for that because you can attach the leaf to the door normally, and this is where the door would sit. The door would swing out this way, and this is the leaf that goes to the face of the frame. Okay, so from the pull side, let's say the ingress side of a door that swings out, this is all you see because my door is here. Okay, that's where my door resides. And that's indeed what this is. Very nice quality hinge, the Stanley product. I'm always pleased when I see their hinges. Their fit and finish is excellent. They move very smoothly every single time. They have, not to get off on a tangent, but they must have a tremendous command over the manufacturing process. So that's where you'll use this hinge. Okay. Now, we're going to go to the catalog in a moment, and we'll just briefly look at the other hinge types, but that's where you'll use this hinge. What else is in the box before we get there? FBB167 literally means half mortise. It means that it is made of steel. Okay. It means that it is a, whoopsie. It means that it is a 5-knuckle hinge. It is standard weight and therefore has 2 bearing packets. Standard weight on this hinge would be 134 thousandths. Let's put our leaf onto the door. Let's put our caliper onto the door leaf and take a look. Yeah, this is coming up at 131 thousandths, so I would say that that would be within range. The leaf to the face of the frame is 131 thousandths. Okay. This is in the satin chrome finish. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind is when you're buying half surface, half mortise, half surface, swing clear, half mortise, swing clear, variations of this material. When your door swings out, you're probably going to want to consider a non-removable pin. And certainly in half surface and half mortise, typically those are exterior doors that swing out. This client did not order non-removable pin, just standard removable pin. You can drive that pin out should you need to. You may want to. You got almost a 50-50 chance. They do include a tool that will allow you to put that in there and with a hammer, a small hammer, tap that pin out, because you are likely going to want to reverse that. If you've got a left-hand reverse door versus a right-hand reverse door, you might want that hole in the bottom. That's just going to be an area where water will certainly get in. So this tool is included with these hinges. I don't see these tools with other standard hinges like full mortise hinges, but the FBB167, the 6 I received today, all have this pin removal tool. Now, interestingly, what's also included would be screws. They've included machine screws, 1224 flat undercut head Phillips drive thread forming machine screws. 7 of them. You need 3 for out here, and you need 4 for the door edge. They are certainly assuming that you're doing a metal by metal application. You may not be. You ought to indicate at the time of order what you want the composition of the makeup of the profile of the screws to be included. Clearly, it's standard to send all machine screws with this, and that would be almost all the time. Steel door, steel frame. But you might want to indicate, certainly if it's otherwise, getting a 12 by 1.25 inch threaded to the head, flathead Phillips drive screw in the matching finish. And this is 26D, by the way, or what would be called 652. This hinge is made of steel and a satin chrome finish. May not be an easy task on a Saturday morning to get these screws, so specify so that when they show up, you've got the right equipment, or at least we ordered it correct. And Stanley does a great job. What else is included in the box is some shims. They use these to not only separate the leaves from each other during transportation, but they're perforated cardboard shims that will allow you to take an installation, and if you need to move that door, cant it in or out, tip it in some sort of way to accommodate for a frame that's not true, plumb, level, and square, all that business. They're included. Most manufacturers do not include these. Stanley isn't the only that includes them, but most do not. Be mindful that this would not be for use on a fire-rated door using cardboard shims. You have to have steel shims if you're shimming a door, a fire door. And as the old joke goes, if you're going to use cardboard, use your competitor's business cards for that sort of application. Let's switch to the screen view where we can take a look at some supporting documentation. Okay, so here is the hinge that we are looking at. And by the way, they're priced and sold per hinge. So we've talked about the part number, and we're going to dig into the cut sheet in a little bit as well, and the template. For medium weight hollow metal or wood doors of average frequency hung on channel iron frames. Indeed, a channel iron frame. It could also be a hollow metal frame, any sort of frame where you need to mortise, where you need to surface mount the leaf to the face of the jamb. 4.5 inch, and that's a reference to the height of the hinge leaf. Okay, that's just the height of the leaf. Ball bearings with reversible flush tips and pin. Permanently lubricated non-detachable ball bearings, 134 thousandths. Steel base, 5 knuckle. Offset is 7/16. We'll see if we can look at that when we look at the template. And this one is satin chrome. They can do, really any finish is available from Stanley. Your brasses, your bronze, your chromes, nickels, satin polished, oil rubbed, black. I'm sure they can do as well. That's the popular finish nowadays. Consider using a back plate with these hinges. So what they're saying is that does not apply to this hinge at all. I imagine that is in the cut sheet, so we'll leave it there. A back plate would really refer to a half surface hinge where you have your door. That's awful. I'm sorry, but we're just going to run with it. Okay. A half surface hinge is where the leaf would go to the face of the door, and then it would be mortise to the frame. What they're saying is, on one side of the door, if we're looking at it, let's look at it from a plan view, you'll have one leaf out here. You'll have the barrel, and then you'll have your mortise leaf here. What they're saying is a backing plate would normally go here. It's just a piece of sheet metal. When you through bolt that leaf, it gives added reinforcement, because when you have nothing other than 3 screw heads over here, you can easily crush that door down. And the logic is, if you've got a door that a hinge location has failed, it's probably not the most heaviest duty of original construction. So it's likely a standard or low quality hollow metal door. In the scope of the grand scheme of hollow metal doors, that can become obscenely robust, very thick gauge material with substantial welding, etc. So that's what that reference there is to. Now the template, let's take a look at the tech drawing or template. Now that 7/16 offset, I would have to imagine they're referring to dimension D, and an FBB167 does indeed have that. The location of what the vertical center line of pivot is a dimension that people like to know. This would be thoroughly compatible with your standard full mortise hinges. What I mean is, you could have a half mortise at the top location, and then full mortise at the second, third, and even fourth location, as they're compatible. But they're showing you what that dimension would be in terms of it being 7/16. The location of the screw holes here, this would be considered a template pattern. This is the standard location for these. And Stanley puts their holes in a vertical row like this. And I believe others do as well. I don't know that these dimensions are a standard, but it would be my supposition that it is a standard set of locations here. Okay. Other hinge part numbers are mentioned down below. Different base materials, different types of arrangements of quantity of knuckles, the type of bearing construction, etc. Okay. Now let's switch over to the cut sheet. Let's see if we can locate that cut sheet. Yeah, here it is. So the FBB167, that tells us it's a steel-based hinge for medium weight, etc., etc. We've gone through this. Hinges can be furnished with hospital tips. You could take that top and grind all that down for it to become a hospital tip. I've never seen that in a half mortise hinge, but it can be done. And there's a substantial limitation. You're going to only really see 4.5 and 5-inch size half mortise hinges. There might be a manufacturer who can do some other size, but Stanley doesn't list those as standard. They give you an idea of what the weight of the hinge is for a case of these. Okay. Your A, B, and C dimensions, should you need to know. That C will be that 7/16. There it is, all in one neat, petite location for you. Now, below this video is a link to the manufacturer's page there, and that link is very handy because it will allow you to review not only all of the Stanley products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to their full product catalog. But the world of Stanley is rapidly evolving with their being a part of the Dorma Caba group. Dorma, locks, closers, exit devices, other hardware. CABA being a variety of, mechanical and electronic access control hardware, many other items. You have Best, known for lock sets. You have Precision for exit devices. You have Stanley for hinges, and that's all being currently rebranded. And there are new catalogs that are either on the way or are out. I do still maintain my good old-fashioned 2010 catalog right here, and that's the document that I really refer to, and that will allow you to go through all things, not only Stanley hinge related, but hinge related in general. The initial pages of this document would be required reading, in my opinion, for anyone who spends any time professionally in the world of commercial builders hardware, because it will teach you about hinges, the different types, how they operate, how to calculate, for instance, the width of a hinge, and just so many other components that navigating successfully in the world of hinges would not really be possible without possessing this type of knowledge, or at least knowing where to refer to it. Here's our channel iron half mortise application right here. Full mortise, half surface, full surface, swing clear, full mortise, swing clear, half mortise, swing clear, half surface. You get the picture. It just goes on and on and on. Spring hinges as well, Stanley is known for. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, the one thing that we didn't answer here is whether or not that was listed for use on fire doors. And I don't know if the cut sheet indicates that. I'm going to be really tempted to say that the answer is no. That technically, if you have a fire-rated door, a half mortise hinge would not be permissible for use on that fire-rated door. And I would think it be because the assembly's not been tested. They've not taken a hollow metal frame or a channel iron frame, hung a hollow metal door into it, attached these hinges, and then put it in for a 3-hour fire test. So I would be quite confident that the answer is no, that you would actually need a hinge that has been tested, which would, of course, would be a full mortise hinge. And before you proceed with installing these on fire doors, which you could, you could be in a hospital and you have got fire-rated doors everywhere, you might want to find out if that's permissible. I'll contact the factory and ask them, and I'll post an update below this video. Anyway, as I said earlier, I'm very partial to Stanley, and I am partial because of the very fine fit and finish. A lot of their material has a lead time to it, and that's because of that, which is the one thing that I don't, I'll just speaking plainly, I don't like that such a brand, an American brand that has been so for 170 years perhaps, is made in China. I don't literally like the backbone or the spine of a door and frame being made overseas. It's just the world we live in. However, Stanley has an excellent command over their quality of fit and finish. Their hinges work very smoothly. I would like for them to be able to continue to make a high-quality product, but I do wish it was domestically manufactured, and that's just how I feel about it. If you have any questions on the FBB167 half mortise hinge or any other Stanley product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.